Welcome to the Truth Podcast. I'm your host, Hany Rambod, and I have none other than Mr. VIP VP himself, Tyler Manion, in the house. How are you doing, Tyler?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming by again. I know that it is that special time of the year, not just Christmas coming up, but we have the Nationals here in Dallas.
That's right.
And it's been awesome having you guys out here because not only are you right up the road, but we have the ability to get together and do this podcast. And now it's at the end of the season, so we can do a little bit of a wrap up of the season and talk about the different things that have happened this year. Because last year we were talking about so many different new initiatives that you had.
Yep.
And I know that you sat down with your grandfather and the rest of the NPC team and the IFBB Pro League, and you had a lot of initiatives. And where do you start? Where was your head when it came to going into this year in terms of what was the priorities? And the biggest priorities, I would say, like off the top of your head, because you guys had so many different things that you wanted to really step up.
Yeah. So I would say on the amateur side, our biggest priority was, really growing the natural shows and the natural movement within the NPC. And I feel like this year we really did that. We had over 30 just NPC USA regional shows. And then with the Ben Weider as well, we experienced like significant growth with that show, which was only a month ago. And basically, we just wanted to make sure that in the fitness industry, we were encompassing every single area, letting everybody be able to compete, in the NPC and IFBB Pro League, which of course, biasly so, I'm going to say are the best organizations in the world, and giving them the opportunity to become IFBB pros. And going into next year, like I've been saying, we're going to have IFBB Pro Natural shows, which will be qualifiers for the Ben Weider Natural Pro Show, which is the only place where at a natural show you can earn your qualification to the actual Mr. Olympia contest. So the best of the best natural athletes will, be able to get to the Olympia stage. And on the amateur side, I think a lot of promoters were doing these shows for the first time, and the numbers and the turnout were amazing, actually. Better than what I expected. So I'm very happy with how they turned out. And we're going to have even more shows next year. We're expanding all around the world, in Europe, in Asia, South America, everywhere are going to have natural shows, and these athletes are going to have opportunities to enter into the NPC and then hopefully the IFBB Pro League. And they're going to have an environment where, not only can they compete in the natural side, they can compete in open shows and challenge themselves and to be their best. And hopefully we give them the platform and opportunities that they deserve as well.
Well, that's great. And let me ask you this. When you're doing a show like that, are any of them bundled with a regular NPC, or are they always standalone?
There's some standalone. There's some that, whether the natural show's on Friday, the open's on Saturday, or the open's on Saturday, then the natural's on Sunday. There's quite a few that are bundled together. And actually, I think those shows are unique because a lot of times the natural athletes have been told from wherever they're coming from that you can't hang in the NPC for whatever reasons that people want to say you can't hang. And what always ends up happening is some of them decide, hey, I'm here, I want to do the open as well. And they do very, very well in the open, and then of course very well in the natural. And they're like, whoa, this is completely different than what I heard and everything else. It's like, yeah, I think a lot of them kind of get talked down to and say they're not good enough when, as a matter of fact, they're very good, very impressive. I mean, the Ben Weider itself, I was blown away with the quality of the physiques with not only the pros, but the amateurs. I mean, there were some crazy impressive physiques. And then talk about like potential, like in athletes, I was like blown away in every category, men's, women's, everything. So I was like pretty excited judging the show. And I'm like, okay, this is, we're rolling here.
It's got legs.
It's got legs for sure. And there's a lot of people that wanted to see what we were going to do because at the pro qualifier and with the pro show as well, we polygraph tested every single person that entered the show, whether they were amateur or pro. And then we did urinalysis testing for class winners and division winners and everything like that. So getting double tested, we're making sure that when we're at that elite level, the testing is going to be as strict as it gets, right? I mean, the testing normally is polygraph or urinalysis only on the regional level. But once you're moving up, the testing gets stricter so everybody can say, hey, They got tested. You would talk to anybody at that show, it's much different than it was before because we made sure everybody got polygraph tested. So the same thing for, we'll talk about it later, but on the amateur side, we're at another pro qualifier to Pittsburgh next year for the naturals. So the same testing will be done there.
So there's going to be a natural show there?
The amateur side at the Pittsburgh is going to be a natural pro qualifier.
Wow.
Just like the Ben Weeder. So
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're growing very well there, and everything's going to keep expanding at this point because I see a lot of excitement behind it. And yeah, I mean, I just think that many more people are going to be like, hey, okay, this was like the test year kind of. I know a lot of people wanted to see what was going to go on.
Right.
Now they're like, okay, we want to get in this and see how we do.
Well, was the Ben Weeder this year, was it right after the Olympia?
A month after.
Okay, so it must have been right around the time I was in Prague.
It was the same weekend.
Okay, that's probably why I didn't get a chance to look at any of that because I was so jammed up being in Prague for the entire week. I was there for like 8 days, and then from there I went to Panata in Italy. But with the winner there, did that person now qualify for the Olympia? Is that show the one that qualifies you?
Yeah, so outside of men's bodybuilding,
okay,
every other division in the pros, those winners get qualified for the Olympia. This was happening, actually. This happened like the year prior. So there was Ben Weeder winners that were on stage this year at the Olympia. It's just it wasn't really publicized. Like no one really knew much about it.
Okay.
So yeah, the winners that won this year will be on the Olympia stage next year in 2025.
I remember you were actually talking about it here in this podcast, same time last year, about the fact that you were building it up and this was happening already. And there was a Ben Weeder last year, I think was the first year. Is that correct?
Last year was the second year.
Second year.
Yeah.
And then this year was your third year?
Yes.
Got you. And then it makes sense that you're doing every class but the men's open because it's a big discrepancy.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? That being said, do you feel like there's more motivation for the promoters also to put on natural shows now? Are you seeing that?
Oh, of course.
The excitement?
Of course, 100%. It was funny because, of course, as a promoter, this is your first time doing it. This is something you're going to have to build from scratch. So not as many people were excited or willing to go and try and do it. But now that we've seen success, we have people, coming out of the woodwork that want to do it. And we did it all here. So now across the world, NPC Worldwide, we have promoters that are like, whoa, we're missing the boat here. I kind of was telling them last year, but like you need to see proof of concept, of course, especially in other places. So now they're like, oh, wow, yeah, we should be doing this. And now we got everything set up where worldwide, I think we're going to see a big, big growth in this whole entire, natural side of the organization.
I've seen, obviously I travel a lot. I'm getting ready to leave to go to India soon and just got back from Prague and all over the world. I was in Dubai before that. And I'm seeing everything grow. And one thing that I really wish we could do at some point is grow the Iranian market. The Iranian market in regards to athletes and just being able to do shows there, where are we with that right now?
I would love for us to have a show there, but obviously because of the relations between the countries, I think it's very, very difficult. And I think one of the most important things too when it comes to doing a show is we want the staff and the judges to actually be in there that are NPC and IFBB Pro League judges.
Right.
We don't just want to say, hey, okay, we could talk to whoever. I mean, a million people have messaged us, right? Well, we want to do a show, an NPC show there. And then they're just staffing it with all random people, and the only judges that could get into the country are from there that we don't even know, right? And then it's like, hey, we have no idea basically what's going on there, what could be going on, or whatever. We want to make sure like it's done correctly. And I know how many athletes are there, and quality, of course, I know about it. It's crazy. But how many athletes are there and like what it could be, I think the potential is endless. It's been very difficult to try to navigate all the little problems that exist. Yeah, exist, and that we would like to see to make sure, hey, we have quality control on the show, and it's going to be a real NPC IFBB Pro League production. Yeah, I mean that market is something that when the time comes, I cannot wait to have something there.
Yeah, me either. I mean, obviously, I'm from there originally in terms of my family. Origin is from there. Hadi is from there. But bodybuilding has grown so much in the last 20 years in Iran. The athletes, like you mentioned, are amazing, and we don't get to see them because they are not available to, come to the United States because of the visa situations. And then so you see them compete in other areas, like they could come to Dubai sometimes. They'll be able to go to certain countries. Just there's limitations. But it would be great to see the Olympia /NPC worldwide organization in one of the largest. I'm just going to put it out there. That and Brazil are the two biggest bodybuilding countries in the world. In
100%.
Iran, it's second only to soccer. So soccer, otherwise known as football to everybody else in the world, is number one. And number two, I believe, is bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I would love to go to Iran. I want to go see these passionate athletes and passionate fans and everything that we see online. And again, they get crazy sometimes. So, our people are a bit nuts because they're very passionate. They love their athletes. They love the sport. They love following the journeys of all these things. And I feel like Hany is somebody that's given everybody hope because you have somebody who is a construction worker who is, partially hearing impaired, deaf, all the way to not being able to speak English due to that, to someone who doesn't have the proper passport to be able to come and go as they wish and still be able to win the Mr. Olympia competition. And so if someone like that can do it, it gives so much hope to everybody, not just in Iran, but around the world, to be able to say, you don't have to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth to become the best in the world in bodybuilding.
Exactly. And I know one of the big things is, politics this, politics that. Hany won, right?
Yes.
Before him, Big Ramy is from Egypt.
Yes.
He won. We truthfully don't care where you're from, what you look, other than fitting the criteria for your division. We don't care your entire background. It does not matter once you get on that stage. We're looking at just your body on stage. And, obviously fans in different countries, they get very passionate behind their people. So they could care less how good anybody else looks, right? They're only focused on their people. But anybody can do it. And we've had a ton of Iranian athletes have success. I mean, listen, we've written letters. We've done everything we can to even help Beiruz, right? Another Iranian athlete that's incredible that we would love to have him here in the States and competing in the States. So, I mean, I can only hope everything gets better and, athletes are able to come here easier. We're able to eventually do something there.
Right.
I know it will be just unbelievable when that time comes. So that's always something that constantly we're looking at and seeing what we can do.
I would love for us to be able to go there at some point.
Yeah.
I would love to personally go there to be able to see where my parents were from, to be able to see where they grew up. And obviously my dad was a coach and was somebody, my parents both came from the northern part of Iran called Shomal. It's like in Rasht. And a lot of people from different parts of just Iran in general, it doesn't matter where they're from, they're just really into it. And I feel like the reason why them, and even now I'm seeing Mexico growing and I'm seeing, Brazil, I feel like when you go on social media, you get to be able to connect at such a high level. And even though they don't have the freedom to travel on their phone, they're able to travel.
Yeah.
Meaning that they can feel as being part of the journey when Hany or any of the Ramon Dino or any of these athletes from those parts of the world are doing their YouTube and they're doing Instagram and they're doing all of these posts. I feel like it gives them hope and it gives them the ability to create motivation internally. And I know you and I just got done working out.
Yeah.
Right? We just got done doing some arms, came in, doing a great little workout. And my thought process is that when people go into the gym, it's a stress reliever.
Yeah.
But when somebody competes, I feel like it creates the ability for someone to also build discipline. And that is the number one thing that I talk about when I go around the world. And I feel that it's not talked about enough how important it is to be able to do one show, at least one show. It doesn't matter how old you are, but to be able to diet for 12 or 16 weeks or to do a mini cut and then go into a contest preparation. And it doesn't matter where you end up. The journey itself strengthens you and gives you discipline and drive that will allow you to be much better at everything you do and touch. And I feel like so many people don't realize the benefit of that. And I feel that, you know, you and I talked about all the time. You would have loved to compete.
Yeah.
You know, you competed in wrestling. I used to come and watch you.
Yeah.
And in college,
Yep.
I was at Stanford University. I was out there, and we were watching you. Me and Yves and Nick came out there
Yep.
and watched you. And you know, even when you were hurt and you were trying to, you know, with your shoulder and you had all these issues, but you were out there grinding with Maryland, right?
Yep.
And it was a great school. But I guess, do you feel a little bit of that? Like where people have feel like kind of softer now, they're a little bit softer mentality because they don't have that ability because they've never done that. Because I feel like that, you know, and I'll speak for it. But again, I feel like, and the reason why I put this out there is because I feel like this is almost like its own self-help about competing.
I mean, I agree. It's like the discipline that you're talking about. I think a lot of people don't have it. And like you said, like when you compete once, really like to compete once, it's for a lot of people to do it and put that goal out there and get on stage. It doesn't matter if you're first or last. It's about like your own journey and realizing what you're capable of too. I mean, so wrestling is very similar to a prep, except your diet is not really great. You're kind of starving yourself, but you're also, your practices, you're not doing like walkthroughs like other sports. Like you're wrestling, you're losing weight while you're wrestling, and then you're also going 100% like every single day. So it's not just like you go 100% like in your mat. Even like if you ask UFC fighters that came from wrestling, they're like, oh, wrestling practice and when we wrestled, it's the hardest thing ever because you're basically like dying and you're going 100% with everybody that's in the room with you and everything else. But what that did and why I mean, getting a little bit off bodybuilding, but why wrestling is like the best background is because the discipline, like they're the best workers I think you could have like for a company or anything because they know suffering, they know discipline, you know, you got to power through stuff and everything else. And then you take that into bodybuilding and you're prepping and you got to work out through your prep and you're strict on your diet. You can't cheat and everything else. Yeah, I think a lot of people could benefit from competing no matter the division and everything else. But going through that journey, I think it would be better for people in general if they had that too. I think it would be better overall with mindsets and everything else.
Yeah, and I think it's going to get more and more that way because when you see even things that I see on Instagram, when you see mental coaches that are trying to create that higher level of intense focus, what they do is they put you through like this pseudo Navy SEALs training. I remember I was talking to Bedros about it, and Bedros is a guy that really, they do these camps that are like mini Navy SEALs type camps to try to create that mental toughness. So, you know, they go to San Diego, they have drill instructors, they'll grind at you. But again, all in all, it's just a couple of days, and they don't, you know, ring the bell if you want to be pulled out because you can't handle it type thing. But it's still only a couple of days. When it comes to competing, it's 12, it's 14 weeks. When people aren't watching, they're not going to be yelling at you.
Yep.
You have to have that mental fortitude, and you have to have that accountability for you. And if you have a coach, to send that in, but your coach isn't with you 24/7.
Exactly. It's all self accountability and discipline and doing everything when no one's watching, making sure you're doing it right.
Absolutely. And I think that that's why some of these different little workshops are so popular when it comes to this mental toughness and mental training, because they take you in for a couple of days. But when you have an entire 12-week, 14-week prep, that's a whole different level of self-accountability and a little bit of that, hey, I got to suffer a little bit. I got to suffer and not be able to eat during the holidays, or I have to turn around and do that. And I think that's what bodybuilding has provided. And it's been over 25 years since I've competed. But at the same time, I still feel a lot of that discipline when I work with my athletes, and still when I don't want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I have to because I'm on a different time zone and I need to look at their pictures and I need to be able to do those things and stress about, are they doing the right things as a coach, then coming into the office and working all those things. I think Arnold was great at it, and he became the most popular actor, the most highly paid actor in the world. Yep. He ran the 5th largest economy as being the governor, and then being able to focus on building a real estate empire, all of these things. Even your grandfather, who started in I think it was the AAU.
The AAU, yeah. Yeah, back in the 70s, the early 70s.
Yep. And I can't wait to get him on. We're going to have to get him on at one point. But when I talked to him, it was because of a necessity and because of the fact that he loved bodybuilding and he was so disciplined. And back then it was such a slow growth because it didn't have any social media. There was none of those things. There was no internet, right? It was fax machines and telephones, and that was it. And as you've been able to kind of take the reins right now and you're growing the brand, where do you see the next year or two?
So I think one of the things that I've been focused on and want to continue to focus on is, expanding the sport through the competitors. Obviously, we want to see more people compete and get on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And also, obviously, through the prize money, the visibility, because, again, like you can listen to what Dana White says about the UFC and everything else. At the end of the day, we're a platform, right? We are a platform for athletes to go out there and make livings and really, achieve their dreams as well.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of people that, whether it's through competition success or through business success, which there's like a whole fitness industry economy and ecosystem that comes through, the NPC and IFBB Pro League. You can have side hustles, you can have a full-time job, you can have all these different things that I think thousands and thousands of people have, through this, and like what my, grandfather basically created with the NPC, which I think is unbelievable. But which I think has only been expanding, I think our athletes do a great job as well with this, of touching other people, making them, they become a fan of one person and one competitor, and they start watching them and they go, you know what? I'm like inspired to like go do this and try this and everything else. So one of the things that we are going to do next year is on the women's side, we're going to add a new division, which I know everybody's asked me for. And I'm like, yeah, no, we're not going to do it. But I think, again, like I identified last year with the natural stuff, there's a segment of the market that we're missing, that we're not touching. And it's really on the women's side, and it's going to be a division. It's going to be called the fit model division, and it's going to be less muscle, less conditioned, a very, very attainable look. Even once it gets to the, pros competing in this division, the average gym-going, person, especially woman, the average gym-going woman is going to look at it and say, hey, you know what? I can do this. I can look like that if I put in some time and everything else. Because even in bikini, we've all been next to the best bikini competitors. They're not big, right? They're not shredded. They're not crazy. Like, it's nothing like that. But the average gym goer that maybe has just started or hasn't worked out that hard looks at the pictures and goes, oh my God, I can never look like that. So it's a little bit discouraging. Even though that division for me, bikini, I think is very, very attainable once people get inside the sport and put in work and everything else. And we're talking about the Miss Olympia, so of course they're the best in the world. It should look like, hey, I can't roll out of bed and start this in 6 months and go do it. But with this new division, it's going to be our entry-level division. The rules we're going to have around it are going to make sure it's very contained. It doesn't blur the lines between this and bikini, right? There's going to be a very, very clear difference, and it's going to stay attainable with everything that we're going to do. And I think that is going to influence and get more of that general population to enter into these organizations, enter into the ecosystem. So not only are the organizations growing, but the reach of the organizations are growing, the opportunities, the businesses, everything is just expanding and growing. So that is my main goal, and I want to see, what happens next year with it. Of course, we're going to have some girls that were competing in bikini think, oh, maybe I want to kind of not do bikini and go into this division.
Right.
So I think we'll see that a little bit.
Yep.
But I think what we're going to see is, and hopefully, is a lot of people that are coming in that are new.
Influx.
And are going to be inspired and say, hey, what is going on with this? I want to be involved somehow. I want to try this and everything else. And I think that's a segment we were missing. Yep. So that's what I want to highlight. And again, once we start that with the amateurs, that's bringing in people to everything, to the pro side as well, because it's bringing in eyeballs. It's bringing in more people that are going to be around it. I think sponsors are going to like it, right?
Yep.
Promoters are going to like it. Everybody's going to like it because everybody's benefiting from it. So that is my main focus for the NPC and how to grow it and expand it for next year. That's what we're going to do. So I'm really excited about it.
I know we briefly talked about it last year about possibly doing it. And what's really nice is the fact that we're doing it, because in the past it was one of those things where we got like, let's wait and see, let's try to get as much feedback. But now the feedback is coming back quicker, and you're able to survey that and say, yep, let's turn around and do that. And that's amazing, because I really feel that can be done. And like you said, put together, launching this year in 2025, correct?
Correct.
Will pro shows be coming into 2025, or is that going to be waiting until
2026?
2026.
So it will be in regional shows. It will be in pro qualifiers, NPC USA, NPC Worldwide, everywhere around the world.
Okay.
Basically, how we've adopted every other division. So the newest one that we did, 5 years ago or whatever was wellness. It's the same thing. All amateur stuff the first year. Then we add the pro stuff, and we'll decide if there's an Olympia, because Olympia is now towards the end of the year. If there can be an Olympia the first year, it would depend. We'll see. Mm-hmm. It's all going to depend on the numbers of everything as well. If not, it will be that next year,
2027.
Yep. But that's what we're going to do. And like you said, it's all about the feedback from people and everybody. So I've been kind of steadfast and say, no, we don't need a new division. We don't need this. We don't need that. Of course, you always see the negative side of people, what they say too. Like, once we do it, there's going to be complaints. And, oh, you want to add this, and it's just this, it's just that, whatever. But no, it's because I want to grow the organizations in the segment that we were missing. I think this is a perfect target. But also it's because, like you said, but many, many other people and coaches and athletes, when they're saying something, you need to listen. And I think that's a huge thing. Like, if it was myself, I'd be like a little stubborn and say, hey, no, we don't need this. We're fine. We're doing great. Like,
right.
What do we need this for? We need to add another division. Like, but the want for it is out there. And when all these different people that are also smart people and have good ideas and everything else are coming to you with stuff, once everybody's aligning and they don't know each other, it's like, okay, hey, we're missing something here. So that's one of the main things that I've learned, from being around my grandpa and everybody else, is you got to be open to listening to people. And then finally, whenever you think you can take it and run with it and, organize it and everything else, then it's the time to do it and implement it, because obviously you're missing something here. So yeah, I think, a lot of coaches out there I know have come and talked to me. So trust me, I listen to everything. Sometimes the ideas are not good at all. But sometimes they're good ideas, and that's I think what makes like a good leader too. So I'm excited about it. I'm very excited about it.
I'm super stoked about it, because I know that you're taking all the information and you're creating a business plan off of it.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of smart people around you. So making sure that you can be able to implement it, think a couple of steps ahead, and making sure that you're focusing on the future. Because one of the other things about this is that not only is it going to cast a wider net, but what it's going to do is it's going to create a much larger ecosystem at the beginner level.
Yes.
And we did it when we first had bikini, but in bodybuilding, we evolved. That's why it's bodybuilding and not body maintaining. And with that, the audience now that looked at bikini 5 years ago isn't the same physique, okay? And now, because of that, putting those parameters and understanding how do we put a new division in, but also lock it a little tighter,
Yep.
I think is really important. And I know that you and I have talked for many years about maybe even doing it with a men's physique type of thing down the road.
Yep.
We're coming back and saying, let's create a new division so that the entry level can be more entry.
Yeah.
So that we can get wider audience. And I would love to see that. And I think that's also obviously something that's completely in the works in terms of thinking and processing, but taking it step by step, obviously. Yeah. You can't just turn around and just go ahead and make a 5, course meal off of a brand new menu. You have to go kind of like entree by entree.
Yeah.
And that's how you have to do it, and you break it down like any real business does. But what I'm super excited about is just how many people I've always said, I would love to do this, but I think they're just a little too more advanced. Mm-hmm. Now you go in there and you say, hey, look, I'm going to go over, and what are we calling it?
The fit model division.
Fit model division.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go in there as a novice, and I'm going to go in there, and you can have somebody who's just been training, that's got decent shape. You can go in there. I guess when you look at that, eventually, are you going to give a, breakdown? Is that going to be more of like a Hawaiian tropic look, or is it more?
So bikini started in I want to say 2009, 2010,
okay,
right around there. And the look, obviously, like you said, it advanced. I think basically if you look from about the last 5 years, we've hit the criteria, we've hit the standard at the top. And I think all the women at the top have held the line, not gone too big or too muscular, too hard. You know, we made sure the conditioning was toned down, everything. Like, you know, it's taken a lot of tweaks because everything did advance like it does in every division. But I think we're at a point where, okay, we have this steady, which is what we need, right? That's very important. Now with this, if you look at what bikini was, and so here's the thing. At the beginning, what was what was it? The criteria was all, you know, it was all over the place. Like everything is all over the place. It's new, right?
Right.
Then you see it starts to get more advanced and everything like that, but still kind of hard to see and everything else like that. So I think like if you go look at, I mean, she's a current bikini competitor and still contender, but Ashley won 2013 to 2015.
You say Ashley, you're talking about Ashley Kaltwasser.
Ashley Kaltwasser, yes. So in that 2015 look, I think when you see how she looked, you know, obviously the muscularity is less. There's less emphasis on the muscularity. There's less emphasis on the conditioning. But like nothing, you know, the conditioning is still there where, yes, we're not seeing any separation, but everything is firm. You know, everything is in shape. And it's a very, very attainable look. The posing, the front.
A more toned look.
More toned look. The front pose is going to be different. It's going to be like the old school way they were hitting it, right? With the one foot forward, like the hip tilted and the one leg back. So they're more straight on, right? And then the back pose will be the same. But again, we're not looking for tie-ins. You shouldn't be seeing their hamstrings at all. It's just, you know, firm glutes and everything. So the criteria is going to be outlined. It's going to be on NBC News Online, everything like that. But it's also, I know this is a division where on the judging side, now talking as a judge, we will definitely receive more complaints because this is going to be the hardest class to differentiate people in.
100%.
Right? It's going to be the hardest because the less you go on everything, the harder it is to differentiate because it's much easier for people to look way, way more similar. So it's going to be very, very hard to judge because we're going to get to a point like we did with, you know, with every division where, wow, they look great for the criteria and everything else.
Right.
So, you know, that's why stage presence and posing and everything comes into play.
Sure.
Especially even more in this division. But, you know, it's a clear look. Like I said, basically what we're using is Ashley's look from 2015. That's what we want. That's what we're going to want the top pros to look like. So, of course, the closest you can get to that, you're going to have more success on the amateur level, everything else. And that's basically where we're going to want to see the girls at. And I think that's a great look because, again, girls are going to look at that. And I think, like you were kind of saying, there's an intimidation factor of, wow, I'm a fan of this and everything else. But, oh, man, like it will take me forever to look like that.
Right.
Well, it won't take forever to look like this in this division. I think that's motivating. The intimidation factor is lessened a lot.
Right.
And that's how you get more people in, and that encourages the growth of the sport, which at the end of the day, when the sport grows, it's helping everybody, but especially the athletes, because again, kind of veering off the topic just a little bit, but with the pro side and the prize money and everything that we're doing to try to raise that and get more sponsors, this is only going to help. So that, for me, is like one of the biggest reasons on why to do this, because I think at the end of the day, it's going to help the platform, it's going to grow it, and hopefully get, as we keep progressing, more and more mainstream sponsors to start taking a look and getting that in here. And that's my end goal, of course, is doing that, because the more we raise the prize money for the pros, the more people are going to be like, hey, I want to do something in this. And like I said, a lot of people come in and they go, I have aspirations to be the best. I want to be Mr. or Miss Olympia.
Yeah.
And then they get to a point where they realize, hey, maybe I can't do it. I just don't have the genetics or anything else. But I realized, wow, I'm really good at opposing somebody.
Right.
Wow, I'm really good at putting together a training plan. Wow, I'm really good at coaching. Actually, I started making suits, so I'm doing, like, there's a million different things. So then they get in the ecosystem and the environment, it all just grows.
It grows.
Yeah.
And you know what? It just takes us back to the beginning of this podcast. When you are going to now step into a stage thought process and you look at men's physique, or you look at even bikini, and you kind of, whoa, some of these guys are pretty jacked now because the evolution has happened. But now if you're creating those new divisions, now it's less intimidating, like you just mentioned, and then it becomes more attainable. So now you're not going to say, well, I'm going to get blown away getting on stage, so therefore I'm really intimidated by getting on stage. Now you have an entry level to be able to get you in so that you can still be competitive.
Yes.
And you're not going to feel like, oh my God, there's such a discrepancy. I'm 3 years away from getting on stage.
Yep.
You can be 6 months away because you've already been training, and then now step on stage and be competitive and have a good look. And that's what I love about it. And I'm hoping that sooner than later, we're going to be able to do that same thing with the men's division and kind of go back to that Jeremy type of 160 pound, 70 pound person look eventually too, to be able to reassess that, to try to bring in droves. Because again, we know the people are out there. They want to be competitive. They want to be able to be a piece of it, but they just don't have the wherewithal to take 3 years to do it.
And another thing, like I said, at first we might see some girls scale back from bikini.
Yep.
I think I'm talking more on like the amateur side, the new competitors and everything else, right?
Right.
But I also think once we see hopefully the influx of new people that come in for the fit model, right? You're going to see a lot that are like, hey, I love training, I love progressing. You're going to get to a certain point in the criteria where, hey, this is going to be a little bit too much. Probably going to look better in bikini.
Right.
Like we see it from every single division, right? Bikini to figure, figure to women's physique to bodybuilding, men's physique to classic to open, right?
Right.
I mean, you see it all the time.
Right.
So I think it only like once you get that influx, it's like, hey, yes, I think this division is going to be great. I think it's going to be big, and I think it's going to thrive. And then I also think it's going to actually end up strengthening the one right above it, which is bikini.
Yep.
So I actually think
like a feeder system.
Exactly. In due time, we're going to see both like hopefully explode. Yeah.
I think it's going to happen. I really do. I think this is exactly the proverbial like boost that we need so that we can be able to really create even more synergy. And when you can scale, because the first rung in the ladder, when it's too high, people don't get on the ladder. Yep. But now that we have someone where we can get in, they can go there, stay there, feel great about it, or they go, I'm continue to keep training and I want to progress.
Yeah.
And here you go. And my body looks even better. And I think I'll do even better in the next division. And they move their way up. Let me ask you this. When you say fit model, I think of the whole package. Mm-hmm. On that division, are we going to look at everything? Are we going to look at like, the hair, the makeup, and everything?
Yeah, because everything's going to be taken into account.
Okay.
Basically, kind of, I mean, when the magazines were around, remember what the fitness models on the covers used to look like?
100%.
That's basically, that's what Ashley looked like when she won. That was the look of that division, what all the girls look like. So that's what we want to gear towards, and why, yes, hair, makeup, presentation, stage presence, everything, even like in your short amount of time. You can display everything in those 10 seconds of coming out, walking out, doing your front and back pose, going off, and then coming in comparisons. You can easily do that. So, yeah, everything is going to come into play in that division.
Great. So what I like about that is that in the past, it was NPC, National Physique Committee. And it was always the physique. It was never from the neck up per se, even though, in bikini and some of the other, you still look at it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't judged. But what we're saying now is that we're going to judge. So if your face is too gaunt, you're too sucked in, but your body looks good, you're going to not be the ideal criteria because you're not the full package. Now with Fit Model, we're going to look at everything.
Yep.
So that way,
I mean, bikini still, we don't like that sucked in and everything face.
For
so
sure.
we're still looking at that. But yeah, especially in this division where it's supposed to be, attainable and everything else, and the conditioning is not supposed to be pushed based, really at all compared to anything else. Yeah, that's going to be super, super important.
Perfect.
People will know right away when they're too conditioned for this class.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you'll end up, you don't want to be sucked in. You don't want to have, any of the situations where, your hair, everything, makeup, like you said, color, everything has to just kind of really be on point because it's a model. You're coming in like a model.
Yeah.
So that's the ideal situation where you're not looking at just this, it's not a glute show. It's not a shoulders versus
exactly.
abs.
You're not looking at certain things. Oh, it's not your conditioning being so outstanding is a detriment. You need to have your conditioning to where we want into the criteria, not over condition and over muscularity. It will be easy. It will be easy for people to say, yep, you need to go up. That's the point.
Awesome. And then is the suit going to be different?
So about the suits, right now what we're going to do is, suits for every category are pretty expensive. We don't want bling on the suits, so they're going to be kind of more like the posing suits they sell and everything else. They're going to be plain in color, no bling. Again, entry level, attainable. We don't want to scare people off with the cost of what it costs to get ready and do the show and buy the stuff. And then for the suit bottoms, we want moderate coverage. All the suit makers have everything, micro cut, pro cut, Brazilian cut, whatever they call it, are all too small. You have to have the moderate coverage suit, which is almost like 50% coverage on the suit bottom, especially on the back.
Okay.
The bottom and the front's not too low, not too anything. That's the suit we want. Like if you have too small of a suit, you're going to end up getting sent off stage or just not allowed to compete. So everybody's going to know that. That's in the rules too. But yeah, that's also what we want. So those are the differences in the suit, because again, we want to encourage as many people as possible to come in here.
Right. So when somebody sees that, it doesn't look like they're wearing a thong.
Correct.
And then what's happening is then people see that and go, okay, I don't feel comfortable wearing that thong because I'm just wanting to get up there and show almost like a bikini style body where I can be able to show myself without feeling like I'm naked.
And again, this is the suits that the criteria we're using for the suits for the first year.
Maybe evolution might happen.
Yeah, we don't know where we'll go from there, but this is what we're trying out the first year, because again, this is all trial and error whenever we do everything. So
absolutely, especially the first couple of years. Yeah. It evolves. But yeah, that's so exciting to be able to talk about. And do we have a first show for this yet?
Probably end up just being whatever the first NPC show on the schedule is.
Gotcha.
For next year.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we give you the opportunity on your Instagram?
Yeah.
You can post about that.
Yep.
What we'll do is we'll bring it back and then tag your Instagram page.
Yeah.
And then right as let's go ahead and announce it.
Yeah.
So that way we can go ahead and make sure that everybody knows.
Yep.
Because again, I know this, how many hundreds of shows are there
now? Across the world.
Yeah.
Across the world, we had, I want to say more than 800 shows this year.
800 shows.
Yeah, across the world.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts. So again, because there's 800 shows, we'll go ahead and announce right when the schedule comes out, and go to NPC News Online, and that'll be on there. But as well as, you've been doing your regular updates on your Instagram page, as well as your physique updates that you've been doing. And guys, if you haven't seen Tyler's page, he's definitely been working hard, because he got a crazy pump today. But then I was like, man, you actually were looking pretty good. And then when he got pumped today, I'm like, wow, this is the biggest I've ever seen you.
I started getting into shape again. But like I said, I'm looking at people that are extremely in shape every week. And I was like I said, I got to walk the walk a little bit. But I've trained since I was 13, and I've been around bodybuilding since I was born. So I love training and doing everything. So yeah, it's just been fun getting back into shape.
It's funny because in the comments, people were talking. They're like, "Are you getting ready for a show?
Are you going to compete?" I was like, "No, I can't. I can't compete, obviously." But yeah, I would have always wanted to, for sure, because again, that competitive background, you come in and you're competing against yourself and also other people. But yeah, of course. And I've looked at all the magazines and everything else since I've been little. So yeah, no, of course. I love this sport. I breathe it. I live it. And it's what I think about doing and making better every single day. So
yeah. And now you're doing that with the Pittsburgh Pro.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. Pittsburgh Pro's coming in May. What's the date?
It is May 10th and 11th next year. Okay. It's at the Pittsburgh Convention Center right downtown. I'm really excited about it. Really, it's my grandpa's legacy show, right?
Yeah.
And I always thought, like, hey, why do we not have an expo with this? Why don't we blow it up and make it big and everything? It's always been a special show.
Right.
He brings in all the guest posers and everything else. But it was like, it should be bigger, It's because, like, everything that he's done in the sport and everything else, I think, like, to have a show that's named after him and make it big and everything like that. Also, I think with everything we've been doing to bring in more sponsors and prize money and everything else, doing this and giving these competitors a show with, again, another show, another option to make good money just from one show,
right,
I think is a huge deal. So we announced we're having open men this year, which is going to be super, super exciting. 100,000 to the winner. But we're paying the top 5. We're paying them, good money.
This is the first time the Pittsburgh Pro
has the open
has
men's
ever
bodybuilding.
been open bodybuilding.
Yep.
Now, you may think that had open because we had all the open top guys guest posing there.
Yeah.
All those great pictures of Ronnie and Jay and Phil and Kai and Branch and all the top guys would always guest pose there.
Yes.
But now you're literally getting some of those new modern day athletes that are going to be jumping in the show because you're giving away how much?
So to the open bodybuilders alone, a total of 200,000.
Total 200,000, and first place is
100,000.
100K. So basically we have the Olympia at 600. We have the 500K for the Arnold.
Yep.
And then we have the Pittsburgh.
Yes.
And then the Dubai show
Yep.
is also up there. And then, obviously the New York Pro, cannot forget about that, because this is also really, I think with the New York Pro, it's going to help because now you can piggyback
Yes.
with Steve's show, because Steve's show is going to be right 1 or 2 weeks after?
1 week after.
So you literally stay in shape.
Yep.
You have your burger that night. You have your fries, and then you get right back on your
Yep. And
treadmill.
This year, New York Pro, we raised the prize money to 30,000 for the winner. So
Okay.
before this year, with everything we did, the normal prize money for a win was 10,000.
Yes.
So 30,000, definitely not chump change at all. And then, obviously 100,000 for the Pittsburgh. We kind of dove in. I got to give a plug and a shout out to New Tech and Axe and Sledge, because they came in as title and presenting sponsors, and they see the vision. Again, this is part of the thing of having the sponsors participate and really, want to be involved in this industry. So we were able to do this. And then we're only talking about the open men. I mean, I made one announcement about the bikini prize money, a total of 50,000, right? So that is actually the second highest prize money for bikini after the Olympia.
So the second highest prize money, and that's like 20 grand first place, or 15, 20?
No, 25 grand.
Wow.
Yeah.
25K first place.
25K first place for bikini.
Wow.
So that's the second highest prize money in bikini. Every single division that we do, which is, we still have classic, men's physique,
Okay.
figure, wellness, and women's physique outside of bikini and men's open. Every single division is going to have raised prize money. Obviously, we're still talking to sponsors and everything else, but the prize money is definitely going to be raised. I think people are going to be very excited and very happy as we keep dropping those announcements, leading up to the show. And we're going to have top level competitors competing, which again, I think is great for the sport, great for the fans, because again, more storylines, more eyeballs, they're competing and everything else. So it's like, hey, it's another show where you're going to get very good people, very top level Olympia competitors competing against each other to create the storylines for that year's Olympia. So I'm really, really excited about it. I mean, it's basically been something that I've wanted to have and do for a long time.
Okay.
And now I think it's the perfect spot, and we're kind of diving all in. So, the more support that we get, whether it's from attendees at the expo, which we're trying to make sure we get the best exhibitors that are going to bring in, the people and everything that everybody wants to see to make sure we get good attendance there. And then obviously with sponsors, of course, and everything else. The more we grow this show, the more I want to grow the prize money and give back to the athletes. Because I think, for me and my grandfather, that's the main goal and focus of this show, because we do so much else and everything else with everything. So this is kind of like also a give back show to all the athletes, all the pro athletes and everything like that. So the lineup for the open men, I can't say anything yet, but I can only say that there's going to be multiple top 6 Olympia guys in the lineup that have already confirmed that
I've heard
that they're going to be in there. So
this is going to,
yeah. I mean, it's and there's still maybe more that would jump in and everything else, but yeah, I think the whole show is going to be great. And anyway, that's why we're giving down to 5th place. 5th place is getting $10,000. So
that's what a regular pro show used to win.
Used to win. Yeah, we're giving it for 5th place. So I also think that this is a great opportunity that some guys are going to hear, oh, some of the best guys are going to be in it. Well, yeah, get your ass on stage and get next to them so you get compared to them, at another show, so you know what you're up against. And I feel like it's going to be a good showcase for some up and comers too. We've been talking to a few of them too.
Right.
There's some up and comers out there that we're like, hey, this is your shot to get next to some of these guys, just in a different environment. So go do it and create excitement. That also builds their brand and everything else too.
Sure.
So I feel like the lineup's going to be very good. I'm pretty pumped up right now with how everything's looking.
The energy and a lot of buzz. It's a lot of buzz, just a lot of buzz in general. I mean, I was talking to Ronnie Coleman, and Ronnie told me, we were in Dubai, and he told me, he goes, I go, man, what do you think about the 600K at the Olympia? And what do you think about shows that are like coming up with $100,000? And that's what they used to give to the Mr. Olympia not too long ago. And he said, man, it took me 6 Mr. Olympia wins to get that 600K. You know? So, I mean, literally, he's like, in one Olympia, someone, you know, Samson, this last year, won 600K. That was equivalent to 6 of Ronnie's titles.
Yeah.
And so I think it was stagnant for a while. I think that now with everything that's going on, and it's just obviously the synergies of everything with social media and all these companies that are seeing the value, and that's not even the mainstream yet.
Yeah.
The sky's the limit. And then also the natural side growing. Let me ask you this. If you had the opportunity where we can be able to get bodybuilding in the Olympics, what would your thought process be on that?
I think they always wanted to do that back in the day, but I don't know. Stuff with Olympic sports is kind of strange. You got to go through all these, you know, different kind of things that they make you do and everything else.
Criteria that they make you jump through.
And I don't know if that's ever going to be a thing. I don't know if that's ever going to be a thing, to be honest. I don't know if that would even help. Really, truthfully, I don't know if that would help the growth of the sport, because at the end of the day, it's, you know, it would be like another amateur thing, right? Obviously, I don't know. I guess not really. It could be pro. I guess it would be another pro show, but I don't know that. I think Joe and Ben really tried to work on that back in the day.
They did a lot,
and they never could get a breakthrough because there was always some red tape that they would have to say, oh, we need this, we need that. That was like just impossible to work around. So I don't know if that'll really help with the growth of the sport. I kind of think everything that we're trying to do and push right now is really growing it, like you said. And yeah, I mean, I think there's so much more room for growth that we're getting there. You know, we're getting there, but that's my goal, is to see this. You know, it's never, you know, it's impossible to say, oh, it's going to be the NBA or even like the UFC, but it can grow so much more, especially as we keep growing, like we said, the whole environment and ecosystem here. And once we get some more mainstream sponsors to realize that and chip in and everything else, we could be talking about some crazy numbers and some crazy things that all of a sudden we're catching even more people's attention.
Yeah, somebody get together that's a fan from Ford or Chevy or Mercedes-Benz or something along those lines.
If there's anybody out there, selfishly, please, you have any of these contacts, hit me up. Help us out here, you know?
That's right. We can definitely get you some good banners and get you some good ad placement in a lot of different channels. And, you know, throw in a Ferrari or something. We get a Ferrari. Ferrari guys. you know who you are. I got some people from Ferrari that follow me, but we got to get you to some of the bodybuilding shows and some of my Google friends, you know, to bring them out. They're actually very interested. One of my buddies, Ben, that I used to track with, and he's a vice president at Google. And he asked me, he goes, hey man, I think I want to come over there, him and his wife. And I said, absolutely, let me know. And, you know, I want you to come out, bring them out to one of the shows, because even them, just because they follow me on social and we've been friends for so long, they're like, they're just like, I kind of like, I want to see this world in person.
And then they come and I feel like their mind's blown. They're like, whoa.
Yeah. And they haven't been able to come yet because they haven't been able to come out, but they have just moved to Austin actually. But when I had Shannon here Shannon Sharp here a couple of months ago, and he was just at the Olympia too. And him and I were talking, and I'm like, dude, you better make sure you come. And he's like, as long as I'm not doing the Ocho Cinco podcast, I will 100% be there if I'm not traveling. And then he showed up. So I know Dan took good care of him and he was able to come. And he even said to me, he goes, well, one day I wouldn't mind just jumping up on that stage. And I'm just like, well, you might get an opportunity, especially, you know, throw on some board shorts. You don't have to worry about going out and destroying your knees. You know, because the guy's so muscular. I mean, you've seen how big Shannon is.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
he's a monster.
I think we might be seeing like more of an influx of like, especially like ex-NFLers and stuff like that want to get in shape that are going to end up getting on stage. yeah, I mean, I really think that's something that's going to help the visibility and everything else. But
Yeah.
a lot of people, when they come to the show, they're like, man, that was intense. Like, they get into it. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's part of the thing. Like, hey, there's, of course, you can watch it on the live stream, but when you can get people actually at the show and experience it, they're like, whoa, man, like that was crazy. Like, they really, really enjoy it. It's so different than everything else too. It's so different. And then of course you get sucked in, then you have your favorites. Oh my God, no way. How did this guy not win? Right. So
That's right.
it gets everybody going. But I feel like, yeah, the more, mainstream sponsors and everything that we can start to do, which, we've been working on and we're going to keep going at, but yeah, that's the goal, because then we can turn this thing into a monster for everybody.
Yeah. So if you guys know anybody at Dodge, Ford, any of those places, man, muscle cars, you got muscle on stage, they go hand in hand.
Any industry goes hand in hand with this. I mean, I think also what's great about our whole entire industry is that pretty brand loyal to everybody that is giving back to the sport and supports. I think it's much different than when you go to, a lot of different sporting events, whatever it is. And okay, yeah, of course the sponsors are there, they're sponsors or whatever else, but this industry definitely supports more of the people that are giving back. I think that's 100% true about bodybuilding. It's not true about too many industries and too many even sports segments, but for ours, it's 100% true.
Yeah, I mean, look at this week. I should say this weekend. It was the weekend of the Olympia. You had two people that were legendary that retired on stage.
Yeah.
Right? We had Sid, who won her 8th, and then we had C-Bum, who won 6th and basically said, I'm done. But they're still involved, and they still want to be involved. Sid is posting more now after she's retired than she did before. And it's just one of those things that's so cool, because I see the engagement. I see how many people really follow her and how connected she is. And there's so many different projects she's working on. And she's used it as such a catapult to so many businesses, her posing business and everything else.
Yeah.
And obviously, Chris, it speaks for itself. I don't have to even get into that. But, it's one of those things where I just feel like it's so connected. And both of them are just people that come to mind. And they're cream of the crop when it comes to being able to be winners on stage, but being able to be really connected to their audience also has made them very, very likable.
Yeah.
And then obviously a guy like Chris, who's got, 20 million plus followers on social. I think it's over 25 now, but it's one of those things where it really, really creates a lot of connectivity. Is there anything you guys are going to change regarding any of the other divisions with posing or any of the other stuff that goes along with it? Like, I know that there was some talk possibly about maybe figure adding in something, or maybe a pose or one of those things. Is that anything that you guys have thought of yet? Or is there still stuff that just comes across in conversation?
There's always ideas, but right now for 2025, there's nothing that we're going to change in the other divisions that we have already.
Okay, so no new men's muscular physique, no front lat spread, anything like that. Dude, literally, I'm going to tell you a quick story about that. It was crazy because we had C-Bum, who literally was like, dude, okay, how am I supposed to do this lat spread? And I'm like, well, you do the front one. He's like, no, the back one. And I'm just like, oh shit, I forgot you don't do the back. So getting him to do the open stuff in those couple of weeks, and then the last week when we were in Prague, and I'm sitting there and just like, okay, what are we going to do for your most muscular? Let's go ahead and let's hit that, crab most muscular. And he's really wide too, so he can do the hands on hip. He can turn around and do some of that stuff. So what did you think about all that? I mean, I know you saw it from home.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. The fact that he, and just wanted to end where he started and open, right? Which is so crazy, because I remember at North Americans, he actually, he looked amazing. He won his weight class, and then in the overall, everybody loved his physique. But Justin Rodriguez was there.
Yep.
And he was huge, obviously. He's super heavyweight, and he was peeled out of his mind. And everybody's like, oh, man, that's just too much muscle, right? But everybody's like, man, this kid's so good. And then Classic ended up getting created. And then, of course, he ran with it and everything else. But I thought it was so cool to see him in open. He's tall, right, with a huge frame.
Yep.
Obviously, he filled out a lot from the Olympia. Like I told you, I think I didn't see him in person, but still from what I saw, he looked a lot better there than he did at the Olympia, probably because he wasn't fighting his body to make weight.
Yep.
And he got to compete against a guy that was top 5, that was just 4th in Martin. And Martin I think was sharper at the Olympia.
Yeah.
But it also, Chris is the greatest classic competitor ever. Of course, he's still just won the Olympia. And even then, I feel like it was, and the height difference kind of throws it off when you're looking, but you kind of got to see, like, okay, from the front, you really see, look at Martin's quads and that width in the leg from the front, right? And the development in the back compared to Chris's. But then you see Chris brought over the pretty structure and everything from classic. So, of course, he's going to catch your eye, especially in certain poses, right? Like the front lat spread. His front lat spread's crazy because of how small his waist is and how wide he is and tall he is. So it's such a, like, compare and contrast of bodies. And then you saw, like, a guy that came from a whole different set of criteria coming into there and pushing, a guy that was just fourth at the Olympia in the Open.
Yep.
So I don't see, that's what makes obviously Chris special too, is I don't know if there's another guy that you would say, oh, he, obviously we're gonna have a new champion, whoever it's gonna be next year.
Right.
But I don't think we're gonna say, like, hey, okay, we have this new guy that's a champion, and you're gonna be like, hey, I want to see him. I think he'll do well against the guy that was top 5 at the Olympia. And I don't think we're gonna see that for a while. I mean,
Right.
if ever, who knows? But in very, soon times, I don't think so. So I think that was crazy, but that was so cool. And then he got to experience and everything with all the fans, of course, that he has, which is a ridiculous amount, and all that support. And I thought that was just so awesome. And just the vibe from the show, just watching him through the live stream, I was like, oh man, that has to be a crazy show to be at.
Yeah, I don't know what the live stream, what the count was, but the auditorium was packed.
Oh, I saw the videos, thousands.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was like they maxed it out for both nights, prejudging and all that, for almost just under 3,000 or 2,500.
That sounds
each
about
night
right,
to
yeah.
3,000. And it was completely sold. And it was sold out, I guess, within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
When they put it up that he was going to do it. And I look at men's classic real quick. What, with that now being a throne that is basically empty, Mike looked great. Urs looked great. Ramon, I don't think he peaked, right? And when you look at this lineup, who do you feel could possibly, out of the current crew of athletes up there, that could possibly do a multiple Olympia winning run?
Wow, that's a good question. Right now, I would say there's no way you could say any of them, because Mike improved drastically. I mean, actually, like I said, Chris looked much different at Prague than he did at the Olympia, because his body's not fighting to make weight and everything else. Probably a bunch of nerves and everything else, like, in his head, thinking about being done and retiring. Mike was at his absolute best. Actually, in my opinion, but also in many other people's opinion, won some poses from Chris, which is the first time that happened since Chris lost,
right?
Which was a completely different Chris, right? Now his physique is amazing, and he was able to lose poses to somebody else, which I thought didn't think it was going to happen, right? Coming into the show, I thought it was just going to be probably what it's been, the past couple of years.
Sure.
Mike now has to show, hey, he can get in that condition every time. His body's going to stay the same, if not improve. He's actually under the weight limit from what I know.
Okay.
So, not that he needs to grow so much, but he still has room to improve and everything else, even without the weight limit hampering him too much. Then you got Urs, who, from what I know, is going to take the whole year off, which he loves to compete. He's going to take the whole year off and still improve, especially in the arms and the back, the two areas that he needs to.
Right.
But he looked like, from the Arnold and Arnold UK, a completely different guy.
Yep.
On the Olympia stage. He's a guy whose structure is more like Chris's, right? He's a little bit taller. He's more of a structure like Chris. Mike has a very unique structure where his waist isn't the smallest, but it's still small, but his shoulders are so broad.
Yeah.
And then you have Ramon, who he might not have the widest structure and the widest taper, but he didn't peak great. If you saw, like, again, with his posing, it's not always the best. And then also, like, his back was improving so much. And, like, there was, like, I remember people, like, he posted some posing video. Everybody's texting me the video, right? It was, like, especially him in the back double, like, in Flex's gym. And I'm like, oh, okay, this guy might come in and, okay,
bring it together.
Yeah, and he might be better than what he was the year before. And I'm like, oh, maybe he's going to be the one to push Chris. But then it didn't come together for him. But to ever look like that in general, right? It was in opposing rooms. The video's not edited or anything. To ever look like that, You know he has that potential.
Right.
And it's like, hey, if this guy can put everything together, get everything straight, that's a guy that can come in and, even though he was just fourth, he can jump everybody.
Sure.
You got a guy, okay, that won the Arnold, right? He didn't bring his best physique, Wesley, to the Olympia. He dropped all the way down to 8th, which, again, shows you Classic is no joke. It is so, so deep. It's the deepest, in my opinion, it is the deepest division by far in the Pro League.
I agree. I think it is.
Because the guy that's in, okay, go look at who's in 15th place. You're not going to tell me that's an impressive physique?
No, they're all really, really good.
Go look at like a guy, I said, a guy in the 4th call out. When they come out at pro shows, normal pro shows that obviously aren't stacked with every single person that's the best in the world, they come out and they're in the first call and it's like 2 4th, 5th call out guys. People at the show are like, holy crap, these guys look amazing.
Yeah, they're really good.
Right? And yes, of course, there's a difference between them and the top guys, but it's like by themselves, it's like people are like, whoa, this, it's every division isn't exactly like that. Classic is. So there's guys, Breon's been around forever, somehow improving still at his age if he stays in Classic. Young kid from Spain was in 6th, that Jose.
Yep.
He's like 22 or 23.
Really young.
Michael DeBull is always in there. Wesley's in there.
Going back to Wesley, what did you see the most difference between him winning the Arnold and being...
I think his legs downsized for sure. Instead of, obviously, his hamstrings and glutes are things he needed to bring up 100%.
Right.
And instead, not only did he not bring those up, but even his leg width, and I feel like just the look of his quads were also down. So I feel like his legs just as a general were down. He was in good condition, but his back didn't have that same depth and pop and 3D look to it, which when he's on, his back double is very, very strong pose, especially because he's great arms and shoulders and everything else. For him, it's more about bringing that lower body in and making sure he's peaked right. He's a threat still. It doesn't matter that he just took 8th. He beat Urs. He beat Ramon, right? He beat a lot of these guys at the Arnold.
Right.
So that was just at the beginning of the year. It shows you, like, if everything's not perfect, you can be anywhere, like in Classic. And, like, the rest of the top 10, if you go down, there was a kid from Brazil in 9th. His structure is amazing. He needs more chest and more back, but I didn't even know this. I judged him at the Texas Pro. He ended up in a close 2nd because his conditioning wasn't totally on and everything else. But I judged him at the Amateur Olympia Brazil 1 year before, which was the weekend before the 2023 Olympia. He won the overall there. I had no clue. Dude looked like a different person in 1 year. So I'm excited to see like what gains he makes. And then Matt Grego was in 10th.
Yep.
He basically doubled in size and looked like a completely different guy from the year before to last year. So that was the top 10. He's one of those top 10 guys. If you took everybody else out and you just put them, like, looking at their pictures,
right,
I feel like people would be like, wow, that's like a physique. If you told me that was the Mr. Olympia for this category, I could believe you.
Right.
Like, it's not like that in every category, not at all. So it's like Classic, I feel like there's no guy I would say that I would be like, oh, yeah, that guy's probably going to make a multi-year run. I think, no, these guys are very, very close to each other.
Right.
And if someone's able to do that out of this crop, they definitely will be showing crazy, crazy improvement every year. And it will be something that's very hard to do. It could be done for sure. But like right now, I just think the excitement of these guys are improving, and they're improving at a rapid rate.
Right.
So you can't really afford to stay the same and feel like you're going to keep your place and you're get better.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. And I think that it's growing because of the fact that these people, it's so close between them. And you have these crazy fans that are just like, I like Wesley, or I like Ramon, or I like Chris, or I like Urs. Urs has got a huge following too, man. The guy, and it's just like you see all these guys, and I think Mike's really going to catch legs after his placing and is going to build momentum. I don't know if any of these guys are doing the Arnold, but that's going to be interesting. And then also, are you going to, you say you do have Classic at
Classic will be at Pittsburgh. The prize money, we didn't announce it yet and what it's going to be because it's not settled 100%, but it's going to be raised. It's going to be significant, significant raise in prize money from what a normal show is, and even from what we did last year when we gave out $10,000 for the winner.
So it's going up from the 10K.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see, because we're still working on a lot of stuff behind the scenes for the show. But
Gotcha.
yeah, no, I'm excited because I know we're going to get some of those top classic guys too. And
Absolutely.
what's crazy is a bunch of guys I just named that made the top 10 weren't in the top 10 the year before too. So it's like there's new guys. There's guys that were last call out, second to last call out at the Olympia. There's guys that didn't even make the Olympia. They're coming in and you get on stage and you're like, where did this guy come from? And they're from all over the world. So no, I'm excited. And I know we're gonna have like a good lineup. That's why every lineup at the Pittsburgh I'm excited about, because I know we're gonna see some of those top level competitors, and we're gonna see some new people that people didn't even know about, and now they're stepping up next to really, really quality physiques and athletes with track records, and having, who knows, beats them, stands next to them, looks really good, and that just again grows the sport, grows their brand, and grows the excitement for the division.
Absolutely. And one of the other divisions I just want to just touch on too is men's physique. Did you see a difference with the weight caps now?
100%.
Okay. What did you see?
100%. The look, again, we've kind of got it standardized, right? Where we don't want that huge look with the huge shoulders and the arms overpowering the torso, right? Everything should be in balance with each other. Having the balance with the board shorts, being a little bit above the knee and being tighter with the leg development, right? We saw more leg development on everybody, but we're seeing more of that balance between the upper and the lower body. And the weight caps are holding the weight, so I think that's helping with the size, right? The judging, I feel like we did a good job with judging to make sure, because some guys are, everything's different with physiques, the weight of their bones, how they carry their weight, everything else. So you can have a guy that still has way too big of an upper body and makes weight. So the judging needs to be on point for that. But the weight limits with the heights definitely.
That's actually really interesting. I want to stop you there. So you're still taking in consideration, even if they're making weight, if they look too big for the class.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's why the look has been much better. And because of this, like everybody's like, oh, will you put the weight limit on the amateurs? I said no, because at this point, if you're weighing yourself and your whole goal is to become a pro, you know what the pro weights are.
Right.
So if you're already over the weight, even if you get a pro card and you sculpted yourself for men's physique, that's not cutting it for classic. So everything's over. So really on the amateur side, I feel like the look and everything has been much better. Okay. And actually the participation in men's physique was very, very good this year. So I'm very happy with the direction that went, what the heights and the weights did and what they're doing. And I feel like, again, that's very, very good because, again, Ryan is extremely impressive. I think all the guys at the top are extremely impressive. But it's not what people thought men's physique was getting to, with being too big and almost like bodybuilders and classic guys in board shorts. It's not that. Definitely not that. These guys at the top are very aesthetic, very balanced, and just overall very good look for the division.
When are we going to get to the heights and the weights where we don't have to check in so often? I know that you're going to work on something.
So it's already up. Once you get heighted 3 times, it's locked.
Okay, so
there's a bunch of guys that have their heights locked that don't need heighted anymore. They know what their height is, so they just need to be on their weight.
Does it matter which show they get heighted and weighted?
No.
Okay.
We did 3 because that way if there's any discrepancy, first we're going to see it.
Okay.
So if there's like, oh, you got measured at 5'8", and then one show 5'9.5", well, that's not getting locked in. The 5'9.5" is getting thrown out.
Okay.
So it better be something that's close to the other 2 measurements. And then if it's, let's say it was 5'7" and 7/8", right? 5'8" and a quarter and 5'8" and a quarter, you're going to end up getting locked in right over 5'8", because it's the average of 3 things. So that way it's fair. Because what happens is if you're not too careful and everything else at the check-ins, they want to stand on their tiptoes a little. They want to do this. They want to do that. They want to do anything to get into that next height class.
Right.
So that's why we won 3, because if they get away with it from somewhere, we're going to see and know. Or if there's just a little bit of a thing, hey, we're taking the average and that's it.
Right.
So
just in case something slips through on one show, it doesn't get locked in. It's got to be 3.
Yes.
And then you go ahead and take the average.
And even after 3, we've taken away a height from people before too, and said, oh, they're going to go to another show, they're going to get heighted because something was off. You know? So I was like, we had to do that for very, very few, but just a couple.
Okay.
It's like, wait a second, what's going on here? And that's on the back end and stuff that we do. So
they're wearing like 3 pairs of socks.
Well, yeah, you're not supposed to have the socks on because we found people putting stuff on their heel in the socks.
Right.
And so that's why you got to take your socks off. And yeah, people try to get by with anything, but we're very, very strict on that. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. So now when you do that, then they're locked in and then they're ready to go. You do the 3 and then you don't have to go out and try to hide it in by the Olympia next year if you're already locked in.
Exactly.
Got you. Awesome. So, I mean, a lot of really cool changes, lots of amazing shows coming up, a ton of new money coming into the industry.
Yep.
And you're going out there and reallocating it. So kudos to you and the whole NPC IFBB Pro League. And I'm definitely looking forward to be able to see all of these things come to fruition. This year we have just a day away nationals, which is going to be awesome.
Yep.
So we're going to see some of the best amateur physiques in the country to be able to do that. And for those of the people that are listening, because we have a lot of international listeners too, they don't know the rules between USAs and nationals. What are the rules 100%? If you can just give a quick update on what you have to be, green card versus citizen, to compete at the nationals versus North American. If we can give a quick brief update on that.
We could do that. So it's all about, we kind of took away like the green card, all this kind of other stuff, because there's like, you're dealing with things that are out of your control.
Right.
If you are residing, now this is worldwide.
Okay.
The country you reside in is where you're allowed, that's where your country of residence is going to be.
Okay.
So in the U.S., if you want to compete at Junior USAs, Junior Nationals, the Universe, Masters Nationals, North Americans, Masters USAs, and Nationals, you need to be a resident of the U.S. and for at least 4 months. And if that's the case, you're going to have to send in proof, whether it's a rent contract or bill contract or whatever else. Because if you try to circumvent the system and say you're from the U.S., trust me, everybody's going to know. Everybody tells on each other. You'd be probably not be surprised with the amount of people that tell on other people that say, hey, they're trying to skirt around the rules. So, and if that happens and you would somehow get a pro card, that pro card's getting taken away from you because you didn't follow the rules. So you need to have resided in the U.S. for at least 4 months, right? That shows you're actually living here.
Okay.
And you can do all those shows. Now, North Americans, you can be from Canada or Mexico as well and go to North Americans. And then the Amateur Arnold and the Amateur Olympia, you can be a athlete from anywhere in the world.
Okay.
But if you have a regional qualification for your country, you would have to have fulfilled that and competed in a regional that year before going to those shows. Okay. So the Arnold, actually, because it's at the beginning, you would have to do it in 2024 for next year. You would have to compete it this year. If not, if you didn't compete in 2024, you can't go to the Amateur Arnold. Amateur Olympia, you have all of 2025 to compete in a regional in your country. If you have that, if you're in a country that doesn't require a regional qualification, then you can just come in and you can do those shows.
Awesome. Because in the past, you're supposed to have either a citizenship or a green card.
A green card or whatever kind of form of document, but that stuff, we had too many people that have been in the States for years upon years and years, and they don't have the green card or
they're on some
whatever
other kind of visa.
Yeah, and it's just like, hey, they live here. Why would we say, hey, you got to go back to the country that you were from originally or came from that you haven't been to potentially in years or decades?
When did that change?
We've kind of changed over the last 2 years.
Okay, so it's very new because again, I used to have to deal with that all the time when I was coaching with amateurs and doing the USAs and the nationals. It was like, and people would call me and I'm like, nope, you got to be a citizen or you got to have a green card, and that was it. But now in the last 2 years, that's changed. So again, guys, if you've been a resident for more than 4 months, you can do those shows as long as you're qualified to do the shows.
Yeah.
So that means you still have to qualify, but you can, if you do qualify, you can do the USA, the Nationals, Team U, any of the ones that Tyler mentioned.
Yep.
You can do it as long as you've had at least 4 months of USA residency.
Correct.
Okay, awesome. So again, man, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. I know I'm so excited about the new division. It's awesome and looking forward to doing more and being able to really share the journey as you've been doing with all those videos because you've been doing a great job with the breakdowns.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, again,
I think, again, that's, like I said before when we were talking, that's for the fans of the sport to understand what we're looking at, everything that's going on. I think, in certain areas in certain countries, they can see that more. Certain areas in certain countries, they could care less. They just want their guy or their girl to win, and we were wrong no matter what.
Yep.
But I feel like, again, that helps with getting people interested in the sport because they're actually knowing and getting it broken down for them of what we're looking at and why things happen, so they can follow along better and they're going to enjoy the sport better.
Yeah. And they said, if you ever need a backup, Cameron wanted to let you know he can definitely go on and do the backup for you in the breakdown.
Yeah. Oh no, trust me. I know he can. I know he can. He honestly, he could be a great judge already, and he's 11 years old. I mean, it's crazy.
He was going back and forth with Sandy last night. I mean, it's one of those things where he'll turn around and challenge you and break it down and do all the things that like you used to do.
But what he's saying makes sense too. That's like the most impressive thing. It's like, no, you have an argument or what, like, you know, like you're saying stuff that if someone came to him and asked for feedback, he's given very credible feedback and like tangible of what they could do. It's like, wow, okay, 11 years old. There you go.
Yeah. At some point, we're going to try to get him a chess judge and see how he does against.
I think he'll do pretty good, actually.
What he does against all the rest of the judges that are there right now. But again, there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. Finish up with workshops. Any workshops that you're going to be at for Q1 2025 right now that we can also mention?
I didn't decide, actually. After 2024 ends, I haven't made any schedule or anything else like for myself yet. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's plenty of workshops out there, every single state. I mean, even internationally, but especially every single state. We're going to have workshops, you know, in the beginning months of the year that I think are very valuable to attend. You know, even if you're a completely new beginner or you're pros or whatever else, they're all valuable to attend because you're going to hear things and pick up things that are only going to help you and make you more comfortable whenever you decide you want to compete. Yeah.
I remember when Sandy started kind of that trend a while back. And it's been going really, really well. Steve's doing them at his gym. They're amazing. I see the photos. I really want to attend actually out there because I've seen so many of them and I haven't gone for so long. And I want to be able to go out there. I think the last time I was out there, I was with Chris. And it's just a different vibe. But being able to do these and being a part of them, I really enjoy them. So if you have the ability, go to these because they have so much information. Many of them are free. Sometimes there's a little bit of a fee depending on kind of where it's at or what it's a part of, but most of the time it's
free. Yeah. If there is some fee, it's probably just to cover whatever expenses it costs to set up in there. But yeah, basically most of them are free and they're very, very valuable, you know, to go to.
Yeah. And then remember, if you're going to be out in the New York area, Pittsburgh area, the Pittsburgh Pro is the second week of May.
Yep.
And then we have the New York Pro right behind it. So that's going to be a really, really cool time because there's something that it's the inaugural expo and all of those other things that are going along with it. Brother, thank you so much, man. I know you're super busy during this time. I appreciate you coming out here and being able to do this.
No problem. Hany told me we'll talk for 15 minutes. It's definitely been way, way more than 15 minutes.
It was just like maybe an extra 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Nah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hany Rambod, Tyler Manion, and that's the truth.